explore.etsy.com. We have another intelligence video to reveal some things we've uh, been watching closely behind the scenes, and things are quite surprising. When you have people that work in government that have so much money, so many millions of dollars, just their quest for power, prestige, uh, for acceptance, for clout, their motivations are many. There are many different types of people. We can't all just sit back and say that, oh, well, they just wanted the job for this or that. I mean, sometimes, they've been financially independent for so long that their purpose and what pulls them into reality is the control of so many different initiatives, so many different things that are occurring that they actually have the control over. Liz Cheney was one of the most shocking Republican voices because when you consider her pedigree as one of the highest ranking individuals in government with family connections that go straight up to the presidential White House, and seeing for how long and looking at the videos when she first got into politics, looking at when Liz Cheney first got into governmental affairs, how she was viewed and how her father doted on her. And this is linked to when you have, like I said, millions and millions of dollars and billions of dollars invested, even trillions, in things like smart cities, controlling regulations, and so many years of legislation upon legislation and power upon power, that the idea that she was against Trump could have been that because Trump may have been an outlier. He may not have had the pedigree of uh, what Liz Cheney would be expected um, a president to hold, considering that her father was the vice president of the United States during the 9/11 years. So we're going to talk about how all this stuff dovetails. We're going to decode some things. Of course, this is top secret. If you would please put in some headphones so that you can maintain the message without disturbing the peace of others and the ability for others to make their own decisions in life and uh, not be deterred or swayed by political discussions or high level esoteric and spiritual analysis. Let's spare them. Okay, thank you for putting in those headphones. So here's what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the issues related to Liz Cheney, such as the smart cities distraction and the 15-minute cities, where they were looking to streamline the concept of using the corporate environment and using the big box, big company ideal to be able to streamline the repatriation of property. They say that you'll own nothing and you'll be totally happy. And since so many people don't even have a chance to own anything, it really doesn't matter to them, and they won't even know that they have totally lost their ability to own anything. is is absurd. So we're tracking highly classified intelligence, connecting the dots. There was a Russian transport aircraft, and there were deep storage connected to the global financial district. And insurance companies were also tied into this, where they were taking art and monetizing art and trust funds and having these gigantic multi-billion dollar loans that were being issued, interest only, which was surprising because it never came back as far as what they were actually doing with the money. Was this a loan to the government that essentially, and we're talking about people with fraud, people at the behest and at their behest and with their power in mind, having the ability to secure multi-billion dollar loans to perhaps Russian actors. This is quite surprising, especially from someone who uh, is well known as Liz Cheney. Of course, this is speculation. Of course, we don't know if this is true or not. We're just asking if you were to place your headphones in. She is a premier administrator in the government. She's always brought information that has been very strong, very wise, very even handed. Some things that we can use to describe Miss Liz Cheney. Um, her administrative capability has weaponized her deep state intelligence lineage. Halliburton, we're talking about Dick Cheney's defense contracting. In defense contractors, you think about Blackwater, you think about these companies that were contracted in war to deliver results and to deliver certain items to the government as well as to foreign governments serving as protective consorts. She has a clear connection to the Hawks. But for her to stand against President Trump is quite surprising. Um, she's trying to steer the mainstream media narratives away from covert international assets. She doesn't want to maintain the mystery and mystique that her father uh, maintained while as the sitting vice president having his personal defense contracting companies working in Iraq, working in Afghanistan, and in the Middle East. So many things came out, so many videos with Al Qaeda and all this different stuff, and knowing that her father was the controller of some of the most deadly mercenary forces in the world uh, is quite surprising. A highly classified physical paper trail handoff executed on a remote airport. It was a non commercial. This is what Liz Cheney was there, according to what was told. We don't know if it's true or not. It was a non commercial Russian aircraft. It bypassed all global tracking networks and orbital satellite arrays. So there's technology actually where they were able to bring this aircraft over here um, in complete stealth. And of course, we have different stealth technologies. So this was being used by the Russian government. The structural timeline links directly to the Arctic permafrost, where the elite use subterranean vaults and scalar anchors to store biological data, DNA, secret ledgers. There are many different underground bunkers, and this the seed vaults where they actually have in the permafrost where they maintain the seeds. This has something to do with the global food supply, and two governments that appear to be at odds with one another. Somehow, an elected official, a high ranking elected official, was assigned to receive information. Whether or not President Trump was aware is is speculative, so I don't want to say yay or nay. I would like to assume that they are aware of everything at all times. The covert document handoff was made under the shadow of the current geopolitical timeline, so it's maximizing the processing lag. So when everyone is looking one way, and this we're talking about current affairs. We're not talking about something that happened last year. We're talking about right now, considering that the war in a we don't want to say it's a war because we're just saying it's a military operation in the Strait of Hormuz and right there in the Middle East. Again, we're out in the Middle East again. And this has created some type of speculation of what is going on. Is she being given some type of commands for this, and what what is the meaning of this? The global banking cartel has utilized physical document exchanges to move massive records outside of the jurisdiction of financial surveillance. So this could have something to do with the insurance deals that they were setting up, where they were itemizing these gigantic portfolios, multi-billion-dollar portfolios, and they were delivering funds, perhaps from Russian insurers, or was there something made on the American side and Americans were delivering the check and there was no record that of in the mail or any type of shipping because this was a stealth airplane that was delivered, and Liz Cheney, the princess of dark contracting, government contracting? Perhaps we don't know. We don't know. But we know that it involves the seed vault. The vault uses automated choral acoustics to generate frequency jammer. It prevents remote viewers. There is talk of constant scanning going on, scalar level, etheric scanning of that vault because of the importance for global food supply and for posterity. Maintaining that vault of biologicals uh, is essential because it's not also just the seeds, it's also other things that are being placed there. And that has become something that is extremely important. So let's just hope that Liz Cheney, that she's able to serve as um, a surrogate for the United States and that everything went well. Mainstream television, they are generating these deep fakes, these middle managers, these people that are jumping into the entertainment industry. They want to get on camera, but they can't get on camera. So they're doing all kinds of things behind the scenes to try to butter people up, to try to make their situation look right, to try to make themselves appear as a contender for things that they may not be a contender for. And keeping the public hyper focused on petty partisan debates to hide this Arctic uh, documentarian situation. We don't know if the trade off was from the Russians to Liz Cheney But we know definitely tracing back, according to this intelligence, that it involves the seed vault. If it involves food, what else? And I'm going to get to that in a minute. The exchange contains the blueprint for a future, such as automated asset tracking. And this is all bundled into the financials of what was exchanged. We don't know if it who's going to initiate it, but before you do something huge, you're going to need a whole lot of money to do it. And this is what was happening. A lot of money was exchanged. Automated asset tracking systems designed to lock individuals out of independent digital markets. We know that the US government controls the internet. They're the creators of the internet. So all these people around the world who think that they're trading money uh, secretly or something as if it can't be found or somewhere in the architecture of the internet that they can't go down to the root of it and actually see every damn thing that has been done. So why couldn't it have just been done through the internet? Because we want to take it out of the hands of the military. So we use a stealth aircraft in a secret location in an unmarked fashion, non-commercial. We're not using FedEx for this. When you are setting up an automated asset tracking system, and we're working with the global food supplies and et cetera, et cetera. This is a huge deal. The physical files retrieved from the aircraft map directly onto the geometric grids of the global financial district, bypassing standard automated clearinghouses. So they couldn't take this insurance payout and then try to hustle it through Wall Street and then just put the money in and take it out. This was a clean cut check that was cut. And most certainly the funds were sitting there safely waiting to be dispersed. So they didn't use the market. They didn't trade or make any kind of multi-million dollar or billion-dollar valuation thing and have it jump up 2 cents, and all of a sudden everybody jumps out and get the money out. It's nothing like that. This was something done in a very conservative manner. The deep storage document sweep is accelerating. It's hiding elite anomalies. The 2027 digital censorship system is coming. They've had so many different things that have occurred legally, that digital censorship, they're trying to beef up, and they call it that they're trying to educate themselves. Oh, we're trying to teach and learn about the internet. We're trying to learn about what they're actually doing on it because we actually don't know what they're doing. And we have to have people in our office that are able to deal with regulating the internet, regulating AI, and all these things supposedly are 5 or 10 years behind. I remember when they had Napster and they had the digital uh, downloads, but then they just converted Napster to you just pay for it, and then you're doing the same thing, and they're just downloading. So you're still getting all the music ever commercially recorded. You're just paying for it every month, and you get as much as you want. And it's also clearly classified. You also know what it is in the screen. It's you're not downloading viruses and all this different other crap that they were doing on Napster. So that appears to have been a regulatory change because Amazon, all these different streaming musics, that now it's the entire game. The entire industry is built upon all of these streaming. They're fueling multi-billion dollar assets with all those services as well as unlimited free internet to be able to distribute and disperse this stuff. And then they're just paying to advertise on all these different platforms. So they didn't throw away Napster. They just took Napster and turned it into a business. And then the people who were behind Napster, they have no rights to even their own peer-to-peer idea. Now the whole internet is peer-to-peer. So these things, and what is it inside of? It's inside the freaking US government. So digital censorship, that's a part of what they're trying to lock down, along with these 15-minute cities and these smart houses. They've already have, I mean, they fill your house up with smart devices, and even they say your cable routers used as some type of digital uh, location homing beam device, and it just tracks from so many different angles. And then they can use the Wi-Fi and the trackers in your neighbor's house and the position, of course, where your phone is at, and all these different. They can check your phone. The camera flashes your face and say, "Oh, are they here? Are they there?" With the coordinates and build up some type of logging history of where you've been over the last year and how this dovetails and create the lineup of your house based upon the hallways and how you move through and the shape of people's bodies. And then if they're in an apartment building, then the router upstairs and the router downstairs. So now I have a 360 model of what is actually going on in this house. So they're keeping the global public distracted with these media corruption cases. Uh, Everything is about some type of corruption and showing the fraud and different things. So you're glued to this while this multi-billion-dollar situation is happening on the tarmac. They're riding out on the tarmac with limousine. They discussed to have the brief negotiation and exchange uh, these these funds that have been dispersed. Uh, this is this is happening all over. So it's like some type of debt harvesting. The matrix ensures that generation after generation have financial amnesia and that it goes completely uncleared. They don't want to have these people turn around and say, you know what? I want to be debt free. I want to have generational wealth. I want to be financially independent. I want to use the system so I can have a comfortable life. They have these people lined up to work themselves all the way into the grave with no remediation whatsoever, no plan, no structure, and keeping them focused on what's wrong with everyone else. And then somehow they think that they're the moral example of high regard, that they are the innocent ones. They saw the video of the woman who was beaten to death on television, and now they're saying, "Oh, we put this video out 2 days ago about this lady happened in Tim Hortons." And now they're saying, well, she really was a monster. She was abusive. She was crazy. She was this. She was that. But it still doesn't change the fact that we watched her be killed and they aired it. And it wasn't seen as sensitive material, it was seen more of a comic relief. So they're transforming our taste buds of of distaste, fear, frustration, all these kind of things, and now they're turning it into justice, a subtle justice against people, just by keeping people focused. The controllers have used advanced weather manipulation to create travel delays. This is the perfect cover for this unlogged Russian plane landing. The situation with the weather people have noticed is that it's been unseasonably cold this spring, and especially coming into almost June, when you have 60, you're still in the 60s, you're still in the 50s and 40s, 40 degrees at the end of May. Um, it's quite cold. So people are saying that it seems like the weather has gone from climate change, emergency, heat, wildfires, all these different things, to completely reversing. And as I announced the other day, there has been a shift from the weather to a more of a vintage time where pollution and the ozone layer was intact and all these different things were in place. This is almost as if, and you see the olden times when people they were not walking around wearing shorts and cutoffs and midriff tops. They were dressed rather warmly, even when they were walking in what appeared to be the spring or summer time. So, of course, people were sweating, of course, things were hot. But we also have to acknowledge that it's been unseasonably cold. So, is there something happening, some last minute with the conflict in Rod happening? Is there some type of last minute weather change that's happening, that's going on? Because this could be somehow, because I mentioned in the other video, the fiscal year is ending. So we're getting to the end of what has been budgeted last year for this year, closing off um, with the smoke screen of focus taken away from the legislation. This last little bit of a wintry coolness, people are maybe not be able to go to the beach and party and all this kind of things. People are staying home, changing their plans. They're looking at different things, while people are buckling down about what they're getting. So, federal aviation, they're programmed. We have to have people that are skilled, that are trained, but there's so much happening in federal aviation in the skies that there are only certain kinds of people that have the ability to really do that type of job. And radar anomalies surrounding Arctic flight paths and um, shutting down air traffic, all that kind of stuff, those kind of things are just storied. There is so much happening through airspace. Certain things are logged, but certain things are also unspoken. And if they were to attempt to interfere with what's happening in an international flight, that would also be career ending. So people have to do what they think is necessary, what they think is right. Reclaiming your absolute inner authority is really necessary now. We're so open to what they're doing, what they're showing, that if you think about your inner authority, creating an untrackable energetic barrier, this is what the psychic rituals on our shop do. Forcing globalist legal traps to bounce off your personal timeline. We also had a ritual that was basically to prevent uh, an invisibility ritual, especially in the time of mass surveillance when people were moving around and many people were able to do that, especially when we're talking about in social um, social credit systems and things like that. That invisibility cloak worked wonderfully, and it really put the people in China, and this is, of course, about 3 years ago. So 2022, 2006, 5, 4 years ago. So the social credit system, you notice that they're not talking about it as much because they don't have the technology to be able to see people and for the computers to see people as they were, marking them off like cattle and sheep and identifying and creating these massive systems. You got a country where all these people are starving, living all out in the middle of nowhere, barely surviving, and then they're focused on how to create a social credit system to further press people down. It's ridiculous. Some things don't require the free market to decide. The acoustic choral harmonics we talked about in the seed vaults and the purity in the Arctic, they match the scalar frequencies of very pure frequency of the electrons, just like when you go to the ocean or you go to a waterfall or you go to a place that is of a positive, well, it's actually negative ions, but it's of a positive feeling. And they utilize that to be able to purify the atmosphere in these massive sea vaults because you can't have stuff just sitting there. Um, they have to maintain the crystalline structures around those items. And then also, like I said, there are also other things in there other than seeds. The frantic push for the neoconservative establishment figures to protect the files in an attempt to renew a 70-year cycle of shadow government and financial extortion. So, is this bringing Russia into the next phase of diplomacy where it's geopolitical? And then also, you have the media picking up other stories, and then the people in the US government know what's going on. So, they're basically maintaining a relationship. They're still at war with Ukraine. We still can't figure out what that's all about, but we know that there's defense contracting going on. And there you go, Liz Cheney. So, Liz Cheney being the exchange medium and the insurance companies liquefying the financials to be able to ensure that the deliverables are secured. The system requires your attention locked into this world that they're creating. So, the world of all the different things that are happening, not realizing that there are people whose hands are controlling the whole thing. So, you're not looking at the peripheral blind spots where the true exchange is occurring. Now, we don't know how all those financials are going to translate into what they're trying to generate. We don't have that information yet. We're going to come through with more information soon as we get more intelligence. But if even on the surface, when you think about war contracting and endless wars, they were saying, oh, the Afghanistan and the Iraq was an endless war. And then when Joe Biden had moved the people out of Afghanistan, they were saying it was cowardly because the people were trying to escape and there was some kind of um, an air of defeat instead of a pushback or some type of definitive securing of the perimeter. Just wanted to end the war. But the war in Ukraine that's happening with the Russians and Ukrainians, that's still happening. So when an individual uh, has absolute mental presence, looking past the corporate media, the limitations tend to dissolve. So if there are things going on in your life that you're not able to resolve, maybe look at what you've been ignoring or how you've been led out into something that has not benefited you. So this is what the psychic rituals are for. They allow you to lock down your own brain and to be able to ensure that you're able to do what you actually want to do instead of what you're being told to do. Security dogs stationed near the Arctic runway, they frequently bark, they frequently detect scalar fields, document cargo, all kinds of things. This is the nature of a dog is that even without the human consciousness, they have a primitive consciousness that allows them to react where a human may not be willing to acknowledge. A dog will acknowledge, even if a human shows their poker face. So there was a collapse of mainstream banking stock. That if a systemic breakout occurs, that could create an issue among the elites. So this money, when you have money that's being dispersed, of course they're going to take the money. It's going to be placed in some type of exchange apparatus. But that money had to come from somewhere. So as it goes, whether to America or to Russia, where did that money come from? Because it had to have been um, dialed out by the Federal Reserve, lest they tank their own system. So people say, oh, well, $1 billion, now it used to not be a whole lot. No, it still is a lot. It still is a lot, especially if it's applied in key areas that may or may not involve human activity. So if they take the money and it just goes into someone else's account and it's just an exchange for one hand washing the other, that money is going to have to be used for something. If not, it's just like money being taken out of the economy because 75% of our economic activity is exchange. So this whole era of these people with these software as a service companies and these they call it big tech. One or two people have an idea and then they just let the computer do it and it just sucks up all this money. That's one of the most dangerous ideas ever made because human beings don't need that much money. That's what they don't realize. They think that the free market can just go beyond its own limits. But the free market can be trumped when you have very few people with all the money. And it was like that even before this current era, where you had a lot of money in the hands of few, but now it's even